Super Sentai ran for 50 years. That is not a failure, that is an achievement. But if it ran for 50 years, what could it have done to survive 50 more? And now that Project Red is stepping into that space, here's the question. Is it already walking toward the same fate? Or can it do what Sentai never did and actually evolve? In my last Heart and Soul, I said Super Sentai deserved to die. By the end, I walked that back. Sentai didn't deserve to die. It deserved to be saved. It just reached a point where saving it didn't feel possible anymore. The inertia was too strong. So when I look at Project Red, I'm not celebrating the end of Sentai. I'm hoping Joey finally decided to take a chance so we can get transforming hero stories that are good, not just familiar. So what actually went wrong with Super Sentai? Why did Sentai stall out while Rider and Ultra kept climbing? Sentai got bigger and shallower at the same time. We had huge casts, extra rangers on extra rangers on extra rangers. It seemed like every year there were more and more Power Rangers, or rather more Super Sentai characters in the show. But the character writing didn't grow with the cast. Red pretty much always got the spotlight and everybody else got crumbs. If you do that long enough, the audience stops caring. Sometimes it becomes background noise. I also think Sentai locked itself inside its own formula. New team, new robots, new Sixth Ranger, or whatever, extra Ranger, new toy wave every year, which is great for Bandai on paper, but in practice, it bloated costs, fixed the story shape, and made surprises almost impossible. You might argue with me, MJ, how can you say that? Kamen Rider does the same thing every year, as does Ultraman. And while that's true, Ultraman and Kamen Rider are both focused on a single hero who has 3 to 4 forms, or 3 to 9 forms, or whatever, and there may be some different types of accessory weapons or toys that go along with that, but that's for one character. If you expand that out, you multiply that by 5 or more for Super Sentai, you think about all the auxiliary Zords they have, you can see that the cost for everything is at least multiplied by 4 or 5 for Super Sentai over the cost and the investment needed for Kamen Rider and Ultraman. And I think it's just impossible for them to keep up with that, to get a return on that investment when the show isn't doing as well, isn't selling as well as the other two shows are. I went over the numbers last time. I'm not going to go over them again, but it's pretty dramatic if you look at them. It's no wonder Super Sentai got shut down and they're trying to do something else now. I also think Sentai kept reinventing the surface, but never reinvented the core of how it told its stories. The suits changed, the mecha changed, the motifs changed, but the underlying rhythm stayed almost identical year after year. There's the, kind of attacks on Super Sentai that they have these tropey, episodes. We have the fake marriage episode. We have the why aren't you married yet episode with a grandmother or somebody coming in trying to get one of the members, married. We have the body switch episode or body swap episode. We have all these different things that are staples in Super Sentai. And I don't think that's the problem necessarily. I think it's that everything around those filler type episodes is lacking because it gets to be predictable. And I know I just described, tropes of three different tropes that can happen year after year and that are predictable, but it's also as predictable as a mecha fight in a Super Sentai or them transforming to fight. And I think it's the execution of it that matters. But there was just something fundamentally about the overall arc of the story in a Super Sentai series that felt kind of samey and I think wasn't delivering enough variety and excitement like I think Ultraman has been doing, at least modern Ultraman, new generation stuff that I've seen, and Kamen Rider for the last good long while. Audiences feel that repetition, they feel that staleness, and it just turns them off. Like Shirakura said in the interview, Super Sentai was just something that people took for granted and that they knew was always going to be on, and they didn't think they had to watch it because, well, what's going to happen? It's Sentai. If Sentai was crushed by inertia, what could have broken it? I think Sentai could have broken its own formula on purpose, or rather, than saying broken its own formula, they could have designed their formula in such a way that it served them, not hampered them. And this is an idea that I just had off the top of my head. Some years, let's say you have an extra ranger one year, and then next year you have no extra ranger. Then the year after that, you have a tragic extra ranger. And then after that, you do some sort of team shakeup. If a defection of one of the core members to become the new evil ranger or something like that isn't doable, if a defection isn't possible because of the standards you want for the kids or for the excitement for the kids, then you can do something else. You can have I don't know, just some sort of interesting change up for the team that I think would make it more interesting. And if you had a long pattern like that, like a 4-year pattern, people wouldn't really know it's a pattern until like the 5th year. They would get suspicious. Oh, okay, so we had this happen the first year, and then this the second, this the third, this is the fourth. Okay, now I'm seeing the 5th year. It's kind of repeating what that last year was. Then the next year, year 6 in the cycle, they would see, okay, now we're getting a repetition of it. So it's like an A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D pattern. And they would pick up on that. But really not until that last D had been locked in would they be able to identify and say, yes, I know what's going to happen in the next season. It's going to be an A season, season 9. And this is probably what's going to happen. There's not going to be a extra ranger or whatever, the pattern is utilizing. But that would take somebody who's a dedicated fan. And then they can say, you know what, maybe I'll categorize these in a different way. I'll say it's not the Yokai Power Ranger series or the Yokai Super Sentai versus the Battle Robot Super Sentai. I'm thinking about, oh, this one had a redeemable extra ranger and this one had irredeemable extra rangers, even that maybe. And you categorize them like that. And there's different ways to look at them and compare them and think about them, as opposed to just there's an extra ranger that shows up. He is grumpy and there's issues with him joining the team, and then eventually he joins the team and everything's great. His powers mimic theirs in this way, but it's different with this little twist added to it and whatever. And it's just it's something we can do without. And I think had they chosen to willingly embrace that, they could have used the same toolbox and put everything in new combinations, and it would have had a fresh energy without really abandoning tradition, which I think Super Sentai there's an idea of tradition that's important to them in the making of it. And, Kamen Rider reboots yearly, and so does Ultraman, and its seasons are half as long as the Ultraman and Kamen Rider series. I'm sorry. Yeah, as the Kamen Rider and Super Sentai series. So I don't think the annual reboot is really the problem. So I'm trying to figure out what's wrong. I think the problem is that it's not the reset, but the arcs don't often go deep enough within that year. They don't give themselves the time to go deep enough with these characters in the, I would say, ample time that we have with them. So Sentai absolutely had characters with real dramatic potential. Like look at Zyuoh Bird from Zyuoh. He has got, or Zyuoh Condor, whatever you want to call him. He has a great setup, great energy. He's a mentor figure with guilt. He has mystery, and he's got a compelling bond with Yamato, and it's really interesting. He's really intriguing. He's not like the other Zyuohman in the cast, but it just kind of falls flat, and they never really developed things with him. He felt like a character whose story could have hit hard, but the structure didn't give him the space he needed to reach the arc his introduction promised. That pattern shows up across multiple seasons. The potential was there, the follow-through wasn't always. And for him, I heard at the time that there were like scheduling conflicts or whatever with him, but I don't know, that's kind of not my problem. You could always do it not with this face actor and set things up while the guy in the suit, and then get the face actor to come in and film a couple key scenes, I would think. Moving on from there, I think another problem is that, Ultraman, Kamen Rider, and Super Sentai are all stories with transforming heroes. One grows big, one is a loner, sort of, and has the power of evil fueling him, and then one is this team-based show. And those are the basics. They transform and they fight monsters. And then they have like each little spin to them, their own each individual spin to them. But Kamen Rider has its own lane of like personal drama, like thematic storytelling, and telling stories about identity. Ultraman has this like very science fiction focus. You get a lot of conceptual weirdness. There's often interaction between our world and another world with this cosmic angle to it. And it's like a premium product. It's like this interesting, tight, 25-ish episode season that tells like a really solid story with a good cast and crew, and like they really work hard to make those effects sell the show as well. But it's like it's working on an effects level, and it's working on this like sci-fi level, but it's junior sci-fi or whatever, which is fine. But like those things make it unique, and those bring a distinct flavor to it. And it's interesting to see what they do in different years and how they explore it in the different iterations of it. And I don't know that Sentai ever really had a strong thing of its own, other than the colorful team show for kids. The other franchises, which are also for kids, feel like they evolved their creative identities. And Sentai didn't fail because its concept was outdated. It failed because it never sharpened what made it special in a modern media landscape, I think. So all of that being said, the issues that Sentai had, what do we do about Project Red? Or what's going to happen with it? Will it evolve, or will it just echo the same problems with a different logo, with a different veneer? Because if Red is simply Sentai in spirit, it will inherit the same baggage that made Sentai unsustainable. And that's why I don't think Sentai could have just said, okay, or Toei couldn't have said, we're just going to change Sentai again or make it different again, which is what they were supposed to do after Gokaiger, starting with Go Busters. But just, they couldn't stick the landing on that, and I think there's too much baggage with Super Sentai, so they had to make this clean break. And it would be a tragedy, I think, if Project Red just failed right away, because it seems like they've got strong pieces there. They've got Gavan, who has a cool legacy. They're making him red, in Gavan Infinity specifically. He's a red hero, which is great. Has this great pull from Power Rangers. I'm sorry, from Super Sentai. And I don't know, it's got energy, it's got potential, and I like what we're seeing so far from it. But it just, I don't know. I'm not necessarily nervous about it, but I just want to think about it. If Super Sentai failed and it couldn't have saved itself at the end because of this inertia, then like, how does Project Red avoid that same fate? I have a couple ideas. I think if they keep the cast focused, they make every suit and ally feel intentional, and they give us clear arcs, not just who wins fights, but who changes and what that costs them, that'll be really great. I think that'll do a lot to serve the show and to serve its longevity. If Red nails character and has people hooked on that, the kids will want the toys desperately, and they'll buy them. So will older collectors, which supposedly like collectors, like teens and adults are into Kamen Rider, and Ultraman is enjoyed by like collectors. So if you can do enough with Project Red, you can pull in those customers as well, while telling a great story. So they're restarting the Metal Hero series with this, I would argue. We've got, Gavan Infinity, he's a red hero now, so they're making that shift. And Gavan is cool with the metallic armor, and he's pretty slick with, like, there's just like a lot of cool things about Gavan visually, and then they're making that red. So they're pulling in, like I said, the Sentai energy with the Gavan energy. But that can't be all the show is. If Red wants longevity, it needs real risks, the kind that make you sit up and say, okay, the show means something. Like, what are they doing? I can't believe they're doing this. Either of those would be good things, instead of just, well, whatever. It's Gavan Infinity. It's Red, Project Red. Who cares? What, I don't need to watch this week. And any twists in it should be twists for that particular season or series, and they shouldn't become part of the overall formula of Project Red or Gavan Infinity. I also think that from day one, they should think global and think weird. And I think Ultraman is a good example of that. They've got tighter seasons, they have a clear identity, they have this premium tone, and they have this willingness to experiment. Episodes like Fourth Dimensional Capriccio from Ultraman Z, and I don't know. Oh, The Man in the White Mask from Arc, and gosh, there was another one from Arc. Oh, The Dream Bird, even. I don't remember any really weird Blazar episodes, but I like Blazar a lot. But like it's a short show with a shorter runtime, or 25 as opposed to like 50 or so episodes, and they still take time to do these detours, to do these weird episodes, and I think that's part of what makes Ultraman stick so much. It makes it so cool, and I think Project Red has the same ability to do something like that, but not exactly that. Or who knows? Maybe they'll do weird stuff with Maku Space, but like, they should be able to get this subbed and get an international release with it. They could dub it and get an international release with it. They can make it export ready. If they embrace this strange side of Records of Extraordinary Dimensions, I think they could just make it like a really unique show, a really interesting show that people want to check out, and it can draw a lot of people in from all over the place. I think, anime fans, fans of other Henshin Hero shows, and I really think having this fresh start and having weirdness that they can lean into is going to be their strength. It's going to give them a sharper identity, and people are going to say, "Oh, this show's weird. I like it." So again, I'm trying to close out here. I don't think Super Sentai failed because it lacked potential. It failed because it stopped surprising the audience. Project Red has the chance to surprise people. If it stays lean, if it dares to evolve, and if it chooses to be different instead of replacing Sentai, taking its spot in truth and in spirit, we're not going to see the death of another series. We're not going to see the death of Sentai. We're going to see the birth of something new and a fresh new chapter that will hopefully delight fans for 50 years or more, just like Super Sentai did, for the most part. If you want more deep dives like this, the Heart and Soul playlist is pinned in the first comment. What do you think Sentai could have done to save itself? And what does Red absolutely need to get right? Let's keep the conversation going in the comments.